All right. So we have talked a lot about how to find buyers and how to talk to buyers and all those wonderful things. Today, I want to talk to you about what to do as soon as you get a buyer and you're going to sit down for a consultation with them. So this is really important with all the changes that have gone on. But what's really awesome is those of us who have been doing buyer consultations all along, we're used to it. I've been doing them for 12 years. They're not anything abnormal. Now, the only thing that's changing is instead of some people were stating it incorrectly and saying, my commission is free or my commission is paid for by the seller, etc. We're going to change the language a little bit at the end of that when you're talking about commission rates. So when you set a buyer consult, the important thing for you to understand is when you're setting an appointment with somebody, they're on the phone with you or they're talking to you and they say they're interested in buying a house, or they have called you about a specific listing, or maybe they've even popped into your open house. It doesn't matter, but you have to create value on the other end of this conversation that makes them want to come and sit down with you. They go, "Ooh, that sounds really good. I need to sit down with them." I have heard people use the incorrect scripts and ways of communicating and say, "Well, I have to meet with you before we go look at property," or "I have to this," or "you have to that." And these people go, "No, I don't." Sorry, I'm gonna prop my computer up just a little bit taller for me today and spill all of my stuff in front of me. Hang on. All right, back from cleaning up that mess. And so when you are scheduling an appointment with somebody, it's not a have to, it's not a my broker requires. It's like nobody wants to hear what your broker requires. What they want to know is what's going to happen that they give a crap about inside of that buyer consult. And we call it internally a buyer presentation, but I do not want you calling it a presentation. Like, hey, do you want to come see a presentation? Like automatically your brain goes, no, I don't have time for that. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to do that. So we have to come up with a way. And I'm going to ask that you each think about how you would want to be spoken to and what would cause you to want to go meet with somebody. So you are going to, like, if somebody's at an open house and they're looking at this house and maybe others, what you're going to do is say, it sounds like you guys are really looking for a place and you need to make a move soon. Has anybody ever walked you through like how to navigate this market and maybe even shown you some off-market properties or how to get like better interest rate or anything like that than what's normally advertised? And what do you think they're going to say? Well, no. So, oh man, I got so many tricks up my sleeve and all kinds of different things that I can show you. I'd love to sit down with you. I can either come to you wherever you rent or own right now, or we can meet at my office. Hell, I'll even meet them at Starbucks if they want to, and we can go over it. Got lots of different options. When do you want to meet? We also have Zoom. COVID really taught all of us about this, right? About how we can meet virtually and still get the job done and still build relationships. But when you're setting an appointment, it is not about what you have to do or what you need to do or what they need to do to come and sit with you. It is about, we need to make sure that they understand that there's value on the other end of this, which means you have to make sure that you're bringing value, right? You have to make sure that you're actually coming up with your lender resources, and what different types of loan options might be available out there for them. You need to know about rate buy downs and the local neighborhoods that are going up, that the builders are offering incentives that put more money in their pocket at closing. You need to educate yourself, because without that education, you're not going to be able to provide any value. So you have to become valuable by educating yourself and partnering with really great people. So you get them to come sit down with you. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, we call it a buyer presentation, but if you're doing all of the talking, you are doing it wrong. Okay. 80% of this should be them talking, or at least that should be your goal. If you're going to make sure they talk and that you actually get through what you need to talk about, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to ask questions. So you have to get really, really good at asking questions. And some of the best agents that I know still stink at asking questions because they ask a question, then they think of another thought and they ask another question. You ask 75 questions in a row and your client has no idea which one to answer or how to track with you, right? Or you get uncomfortable in the silence and you ask a question and they get uncomfortable and then you sit there and you save them and you don't let them answer the question. So how much do you owe on the property or whatever? How much are you guys thinking about buying? Whatever the question is that you're asking in real estate, and they get quiet because they're thinking, and you can't stand silence and you ruin it and you never get your answer. And so learning to ask questions is going to be imperative, but even more so, not just in the before we meet with them, but also when we sit down with them at this consult, the first 20 to 30 minutes is all asking questions. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down with them and I'm going to say, I'm so excited to meet with you today. Buying a house is a really big deal. I'm so excited for your journey. Let's talk about what you guys are wanting to accomplish. You told me a little bit at the open house or at the grocery store or over the phone or whatever it was that they met with you on. You can recap on what you recall. And then I love to ask questions like, if this could go perfectly for you, what would that look like? That is an incredibly open-ended way of asking a question and just allow them to talk. Well, if it went perfectly, it would, we wouldn't have to spend a whole lot of our own money and we could move in and not have a lot of stuff done. We would end up in this school district. We'd get the best rate that we possibly could, but whatever's on their mind is coming out. Now, most people's anticipation and their excitement in an appointment like this leads you guys to just taking the surface value of what they've said. That's your second mistake. If you really want somebody to walk out of these meetings going, man, I really like that realtor and I feel really good in their hands, then you not only ask the questions, but you go deeper. So I'm sitting there talking to them and I'm writing as they're talking and they say, we would end up, it would be like little to no stress. We'd get the best rate we possibly could. We wouldn't really have to do a whole lot when we move in. So not projects and that we'd have a great yard for the dog. Okay. I'm not moving on. I'm going to ask them more about each one of those things. Little to no stress. You've probably brought that up because at some point this has either felt stressful or maybe you've gone through it before or you've watched somebody else stress. What are you most worried about stressing about? Or what are the type of things that cause you stress? And dig, find out. You don't know. It could be that they have had people lie to them before and they don't want to be lied to. It could be that they're just their personality style. They're afraid to make a mistake and they're nervous because this is their first time. What are you afraid to make a mistake of? What's your biggest fear in this? Are you afraid you're going to regret it and you're going to buy the wrong house? Or are you afraid you're going to get stuck in this? Or what are you afraid of? Talk to me so that I know where you're at. Because if you figure this out early on, guys, when they're triggered, you'll realize it's actually the stuff that they talked about to you in the buyer consult, if you were listening. If they're asking about rate or trying to find the right house in the right school district, talk to me about that. What is that rate? Or what is that What is the perfect rate? What is too high? What is too low? Are we shooting for a specific payment, or are we hyper focused on the rate? Because honestly, you can get any rate you want if you pay enough money. So just talk to me. What's the whole picture, and what's really important to you? And talk to me about projects. What do you think a project is? Some people think painting is a project and they don't even want to have to paint. They want move-in ready. Other people are more like, there's no floors in this house. We're going to have to redo all the floors, or there's holes, or there's a leaky, roof. What somebody believes is a bad project or a good project is very dependent upon who you are and what your life circumstances are, what your budget is. Talk to me about your dog. What kind of dog do you have? The big dog, little dog? How big of a yard are we looking for? And do we want it already fenced, or do we want it like fenceable? And we can get that figured out when we get there. Right? You want to spend time with people, asking them questions. And I'm going to remind you guys that people's favorite topic of conversation is themselves. So if you want to be purposeful in your buyer consult and make sure that they walk out of there wowed and feeling good, the topic of conversation needs to be them. And the only way you make that happen is by asking questions about them and what they want. It's the only way. And when they say something, bonding with them is not me too. Even I slip up occasionally with some me toos. Every once in a while is not the end of the world. But if every time they say something, it's me too, I love that too, at some point they're going to go, are you just a yes man or woman, right? Or who's this about? About me or about you? And how much you have in common with me? So be careful with those me toos. Those are my high eyes that tend to do the me toos. So we map out what's important to them. Then we need to talk about finances. Let's talk through this. I'm going to show you guys my buyer presentation, but you need to go build yours. Mine is shareable. You guys, it's not like, strange information. It's not, you can rip off and duplicate, but some of it's not going to apply to you. Okay. So it's not things that you offer in your world, but you need to create yours. The most important things that we cover with them that you need to build into your presentation is what money is going to be expected and what are the common pitfalls that could happen that you guys can go ahead and get ahead of. Okay. This could be different in every market, but I'm going to cover some that are really common. So in Georgia, we have earnest money first. It's important to discuss that with them. How much is it? And what is it usually? What's the lowest? What's the highest? When could that change? So I need to make sure you go ahead and have this money available, because when we write your offer, that money is getting deposited if it gets accepted. Like right there, you're done with that money until closing, if you close. And then I can get it back for you if you have to cancel for a reason that I give you out in a contract, okay? Then we need to talk about inspections, appraisals, and any additional contractor fees that they need to be aware of, right? If they are doing specific types of financing like FHA, they might need to be getting a termite letter. Now, if the house is fine, a termite letter might be free to $50 to $75, whatever. Or if it's infested and needs to be treated, could be hundreds of dollars, right? So we need to be aware of these things. I live in rural Georgia, so there's a lot of septic tanks and wells. I recommend if a property has a septic tank or a well that you hire somebody additionally to inspect those two things. Water test, well inspection, and a septic pumping and inspection to confirm that it's good. Now, in my mind, those are buyer expenses, not seller expenses. That is the buyer determining, should I ask for anything? Because I'm going to do my due diligence to make sure that stuff is working. But like in Georgia, septic tank pumping, you do have to get permission to do it. But in my opinion, that's a buyer expense. And now we are approaching having the conversation of, let's talk about commission. Now, my commission rate is blank. And it's, everybody's real estate commissions are negotiable. You'll find different things for different resources, but I offer full service and this is what I offer. Now, the way that things currently work is some properties or most properties, in this case right now, I can find out what, if any, the seller is willing to contribute towards that, either towards their closing costs or the commissions, et cetera. And every house will be a case by case basis for us to determine if they're paying my rate, if there's a difference that you may need to come up with, and or if you and I are going to negotiate to get a deal done. Okay. So right now, do you have a plan for commission, or do we need to look at homes that cover my commission? Do we want to look at all homes? How do you want to handle that? And we've got to get guidance from these buyers going forward, how they want to handle it based on their finances. Now, their down payment and closing costs, this is something that I'm very adamant that you do not quote it, that you get the lender to quote it. So your down payment could be anything from $0 down up to 25% or more, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. Your closing costs are different by lender. They're different if you're paying down your rate. They're different if the taxes are different on each house. So what I advise that you do before we get moving and before we go shopping for houses is you get a budget with your lender and have them send you what we used to call a good faith estimate. You can just ask them for the estimate of closing costs now and have them put it out for you and say, based on a house of this price range at this interest rate, what would my closing costs and down payment be? And they can actually run the report for you. I lean a lot on my lenders. I reassure the clients that they are the experts when it comes to lending and what options are available for that client. And if you believe in your lenders, you should do the same. And so if you don't believe in your lenders, or you don't believe in the lender that they've given you, that they chose and brought to the table with them, talk to them about it and say, listen, would you mind at least shopping? Because I'm getting icky vibes or red flags from the one that you sent me, right? Once we've talked through on all of the costs and we make sure that they have a plan for that, the next conversation is, where do you want to go from here? We can look at new construction. We can look at unlisted off-market properties. We can look at stuff when it comes on the MLS. How do you want to proceed from here? We start and get them in the forward motion, ask them a couple of questions. Then what I'm going to do after that point is I've got a good idea of they're hungry, they're ready to move forward, whether they're moving forward now or in a couple of months. I say, great, I'd like to walk you through what I specifically do differently and how I do it so that I can set you up for success to reach these goals. So then I'm going to share let me pull it up first and then I'll share my screen, because we actually print these booklets out. My internet loves it when I'm on Zoom and trying to get something opened at the same time. Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen. And in your presentation, it should be something that you're excited to leave with them, that you're proud of it, that you go, man, I've really put some good stuff together here. And I want to be able to hand this out to people and they're going to get value from it and they're going to want to reach back out to me. It is up to you what goes in it. Okay. You can put testimonials, you can put any of the stuff that I'm about to show you. You can do all those things, but regardless, there needs to be value in that presentation. So walks me and my agents through it specifically. So first of all, it reminds me, I'm about to talk to them about their goals, which is what we just spent 20 or 30 minutes on, right? Then we've got like a little introduction letter. You can write an introduction letter that's about you and what's important to you and what sets you apart. Then we always have a mortgage calculator ready that calculates the value of home ownership because we want to get them excited about the fact that owning a home is so much better for your wealth building than renting. We want to get them excited that because this can be a rough process, right? And depending on the person, we want to make sure that we put as much in their hands as possible. But when it comes time to actually showing them this booklet and going over it, I tell them, listen, I know you're not in kindergarten. I don't want to read this to you verbatim, but I'm going to go over a couple of highlights that I think would be important to you based on what you've told me. So if I'm talking to a first-time home buyer who's going, why would I want to do all of this? I'm going to go over the value of home ownership. I'm going to show them where that calculator is, and I'm going to get them excited about home ownership. If this person is bought and sold a bunch of times, I'm probably going to skip this page, right? It's in my booklet. They get a copy of it, but I don't need to read it to them. They're happy being homeowners. They want to continue to be homeowners. They're happy, right? And by the way, you guys can borrow this if you ever wanted to. We've got it's a place mortgage app, and it has the value of home ownership calculations in there. You can use it for free. You're not hurting anybody's feelings or anything like that. You just use it whenever you want. If you have that, then you could go over this page. This is one of the pages that we have where we talk about home appreciation, what principal payments do to, your principal paid, the tax benefits of home ownership, et cetera, so that we can show them that there's more to home ownership than just the payment that you're paying every month. Depending on the person, we might talk them through the buying process, right? If this is a seasoned buyer, then I'm only going to touch on things that I believe maybe if they bought or sold in a different area, different state, I'm going to prep them for what's going to happen in Georgia. If they haven't bought in the last 2 years, I'm going to cover what I think may have changed and they may need to be aware of for like today's market and what's changed there. So if they're first time home buyer, I'm probably going to go over every single step, right? So this is where you build out a buyer consult that fits everybody, but you tailor it inside of each meeting, right? You're not going to give the same presentation to every single person. So I walk them through, hopefully, we've already gone through some of their needs analysis and what we talked about for the past couple of minutes. Now we talk about securing financing, and, we've got lots. Every single one of you has so many lenders that want your business that you have multiple ways to save them thousands on their mortgage. There is absolutely no question that you have the connections to save them money, save them time, everything. So what you're going to do is walk them through. If you haven't already, we're going to get you pre-approved for your mortgage. And once you've chosen a lender, we can even go ahead and submit all of your documents to get you underwritten and essentially approved waiting on an appraisal on a house. Speeds up the process, makes you look amazing in an offer situation or even a multiple bid situation. But mainly, we need to know what kind of loan you're getting, because every loan, the house has to qualify for the loan just as much as you do. So if you're looking at FHA, but you're looking at condos, I know I'm going to have to do a couple of checks and balances to make sure that the condos you're looking for match FHA financing. If you are looking for a USDA, which is 100% financing in Georgia, I need to go and make sure that the homes and the radius that you're searching fall within their coverage area. There's things that I have to do on the back end to make sure that you don't waste any time or energy or fall in love with a house that doesn't qualify for the financing that you're looking for. So it's imperative that we get the financing straight first before we do anything else. That's even when I'm buying a house, I don't find the deal first. I get my financing squared away first, then I go shopping. Okay. I'm going to skip the next slide because it's marketing for our mortgage company. Now we talk about finding the right home. Let's talk about how we're going to find right homes. And those of you who are seasoned know why we have to pull all of this up, because inevitably somebody somewhere was working with you and you were showing property and you thought everything was good. And then they found a for sale by owner or a new construction neighborhood or whatever. And they did the deal without you, which is number one, why we do buyer brokerages. And number two, why we consult with them and talk them through it ahead of time. If you're coming in behind the 8 ball, it's over. They already found the house. And the other thing that I like to remind people of in a buyer consult is before the internet and before shared listing services and all this other stuff, realtors had a book of the active listings, and they had to go and open that book and show it to people sitting at a table. And that was how we found listings. The cool thing is we're in the information age. Listings are everywhere now. So our job has molded from not just having the resources and finding the properties, which is one part of my job. My real job starts when we find the house, negotiating the right terms, once you get your inspection, once we get the appraisal, keeping everybody in check and keeping them moving along and keeping timelines. So don't worry if you find a house that I didn't send you. It's okay. I can still help you and support you. All I need for you to do is send me the information. Do you see how I got ahead of that? Right now, we're going to discuss there's going to be some that are listed on the MLS and on Zillow and whatever. Great. You and I can both see those. I'll get you scheduled showings. But then there's these weird ones. There's for sale by owners. And in those cases, if you see one that I didn't see, I want you to send it to me. I'll call them. Generally, they are offering a commission, but if you call them directly, I can't get that paid. So if you call them directly and you want me to represent you, it may actually cost you more money than you think. And I'm really good at negotiating with for sale by owners. So you want me to be a part of it, right? Foreclosures. Now they're rare, but they do exist. And it is important that you let me know if you see something somewhere on some random website and you'd like me to reach out about it. I've got you. Now, off-market homes. These are really exciting because I actually work with a team, or you could say your team, your brokerage, etc. And you say, and I am finding out about listings before they hit the MLS. So what's really exciting is the clients that sign with me. See how I threw that in there? The clients that sign with me, if I see a listing that's off market, I can tell them about it. But if they don't sign with me and they're like shopping and working with multiple realtors and haven't committed to anyone, I have to keep it a secret. It's just kind of the brokerage laws, right? Now, in new construction, who do you think is representing? Who do you think the on-site agent is representing when you walk into a new construction neighborhood? Who do you think pays them? Right? Get them to think about it. Exactly. So when you walk into a new construction neighborhood, they have been instructed by the builder, you have a job to help me sell these houses and here are my terms. Bing, 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 bing. So when you walk in and you go, can I get this? Can I get that? Can I get this? They go, no. Nope, this is what you can have and this is how you can get it. I'll tell you 9 times out of 10, when I am negotiating, I get all the things you ask for, or at least most of them. Why? Because I don't represent the builder, I represent you. And I know how to push for it. So be careful. If you're going to tour any homes, open houses, new construction, for sale by owners, etc., call me first. Take my business cards. I'm going to give you a few of them to take with you. And if you meet another realtor and they start asking you a ton of questions, just know they're trying to convert you to a client of their own. Ask them whatever you want, but in the process, hand them my card and say, this is my realtor. You can reach out to her. Okay. But still ask them. There is no problem, but just make sure that they know where the boundaries are, and don't do any negotiations without me, because I'm telling you, I'm the queen of it. And if you're a guy, you don't have to say queen unless you are one. Okay. Like you would say the king. Okay. All right. So when it comes time for us to make an offer, let's talk about what's going on in the market. This is imperative. And there's a reason why all these boxes are blank. I literally open up my computer, go to the MLS and pull reports right there in front of them. I say, let's pull some reports. Let's talk about, and hopefully I've already looked at them that morning, but I'm pulling it to show them like, this is what's really going on. Okay. I tell them months of inventory, days on market, list price to sales price ratio, market overview, depending on what we're talking about. I might tell them whether it's a buyer or seller market. I might tell them what I'm seeing in negotiations. I'm seeing closing costs getting paid. I'm seeing them not getting paid, etc. Show them a couple of properties that are on the market, pended and sold, and say, yep, these are the ones that that are moving. So, and here's what's happened. This went off the market really quickly, blah, blah, blah. And here is how I interpret that data. That's where you come in. You say, listen, we are in your price point. I do recommend you pull it per price point, because if you pull somebody in rural Georgia right now looking under 250, the numbers are going to be very different than somebody looking over 500. Okay, they're different numbers. You need to know how to pull the numbers and interpret the data. So if I'm seeing 1.5 months of supply of inventory, I'm making up numbers, 3 days on market, and I'm seeing a list price to sales price ratio of 103%, I'm going to tell them, listen, in the price point that you're in, it is hot, it is aggressive. We are going to want to make sure that you are either fully approved, and that we don't even need anything but an appraisal in the house. We're going to probably want to find some off-market properties. We're going to have to go a different direction in this. Or if it's the other direction and I'm going, okay, we're at a little bit higher price point. We have 7 months of inventory and 120 days on market is the average right now, and a list price sales price ratio of 94%. At least I'm telling them the average one is selling at around 94% of their asking price. I'll guide you per house to tell you which one we should be writing an offer on and how low or how high we should go. Now, how low or how high we should go is not, and I would tell them this, I'm not afraid to tell them, it's not how much Brittany wants the commission. How high or low we go depends on the condition of the property, the time it's been on market, the appropriateness of its price, and how many other people are interested. Okay. So if you want that house and 3 other people are bidding, I don't give a crap about my commission at that point, because I want to get you that house if that's the house. We're going to do what it takes. And I'm going to give you the advice. It's up to you whether you take it or not. I can't make you do anything. Okay. Now, if a house has been sitting on the market for 180 days, we're not offering asking price, right? We're going to look at this and we're going to do it a little bit differently. So each property and my guidance will depend on those circumstances. Okay. And when you go over this, guys, if you go over it the way I just did, and you pull the numbers and you're showing them the numbers and you're speaking as confidently as I am, what they will do after seeing this slide and looking at those numbers with you is go, okay, that was a lot. When it comes up, I'm just going to trust her. Because it was more, they were like, whoa, what? Days on market, average list price, sales price, what are we talking about? They're all over the place, right? And you're going fast, you're confident with it, and you say, listen, it's going to depend on the property, how many other offers are on it, and what's the feedback I'm getting from that listing agent, and I will guide you. I just need you to trust me. But if you just walked into the appointment and said, I'm just going to need you to trust me at the beginning, you gave them no reason to. Here, I'm giving you evidence and numbers and strategy. Most of you don't know how to do this yet, and that's okay. I want you to learn. That's why we're teaching this class, but you've got to learn how to interpret the market, because otherwise you're just another realtor opening doors. And that's not super valuable. That's not worth whatever you're charging. But guidance, business acumen, understanding the market, interpreting it, navigating it, that's value. And that's what I mean by you get into this appointment to establish value. In your presentation somewhere, you need to have who your team is. Doesn't have to look like this, right? I got a big team. It's okay. When I named Brittany Purcell and Associates, it was me a baby, and my dog. Okay. Like that was the associates. All right. So Brittany Purcell, hi, honey. The dog said, did you say dog? Um, your team might be your brokerage. It might be your lenders that you work with, the closing attorneys that you work with to make a smooth and seamless transaction. Your team might be other agents that you partner with on certain things. Like, we were discussing commercial stuff earlier. Maybe you have a commercial expert that you partner with on these things, or your broker could be part of your team. Whatever it is, explain to them, I'm not alone in this. I've got all of the support to help you, even if you were talking about people in your brokerage that are supporting you and or your vendors, right? Property inspectors, home warranty people, all those people are your team, right? They make up your team. Couple of things to be aware of. I want you to earmark this picture. That's what I would say to them. I would either ask them to screenshot it, or I would ask them to, take a picture of it, mark it as a favorite, plaster it on your mirror at home. I don't know what you need to do, but this is important. Once you get pre-approved for your mortgage, I need you to follow these. We didn't call them this in this presentation, but I used to call these the 10 commandments of buying a home and getting a mortgage. Essentially, all of this says don't change anything financially. And if you have to plug in a social security number and a birth date, don't do it without calling your lender. Like that's the bottom line. But this gives them very big specifics. And I would even stop and make them read it. I can't tell you how many things have fallen apart because somebody went and traded their car, or they co-signed for their brother. They did something stupid and it messed with their debt to income ratios. Honestly, oh, there we go. Let's talk about the process from offer to closing and the way that it works in Georgia. It's important to explain this to somebody who hasn't bought in a while, or they're a brand new buyer, or they bought in a different state. Okay, because some states are title states, some states are attorney states, some are escrow, blah, 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 blah. There's all this different stuff. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to extend an offer. We're going to negotiate the terms, and we don't go binding. What's what we call it? Offer accepted binding in Georgia. And that's when everything officially starts. That's when your inspections start. That's when we get the lender, give them the go ahead, et cetera. So we initiate that loan process. They're going to be asking you for tons of documents, all great and good. Then you're going to do your inspections. We will navigate the inspection process together. I'll review it with you and we'll decide if we're going to change anything or ask for anything. Once we get through inspections, then it's on to appraisal. And then in behind the scenes, the bank and the closing attorney, whether it's a lender or bank or whatever, they're doing their loan docs, they're gathering title, they're putting everything together so that we can get you ready for the closing. You'll get some documents to sign there right towards the end. And that's when your lender will start wrapping it up and saying like, okay, clear to close. Clear to close is our favorite set of words if you're getting a loan. And that means that they have everything that they need and they have given everybody the green light. Y'all head to closing. And on the closing date, that's where you bring your driver's license and another form of ID and that big old check or wiring your funds. P.S. Don't wire any money without talking to me first. We got to make sure we send it to the right places while we're talking about that. And when we close, you're going to sign off on everything. And depending on our contract, possession or you getting the keys and being able to move in will either happen right then after you close and you own it, or if we've negotiated any additional days or something like that for the seller to move out, possession or you taking over the house might occur then. So do you have any questions, right? And I slow down and ask them if they have any questions. But then I remind him, I say, listen, this looks really easy because it's like 8 cute little boxes on one page. There's like 25 people we're navigating and keeping them on their timelines and making sure they're doing their job and then making sure you're sending them stuff when you said that you were going to send them stuff. It's actually quite a complicated process. So there's going to be some speed bumps and some irritations along the way. And I just want you to know that while I can't make every irritation go away, I'm here, I'm locking arms with you, and I am your partner in this. So if you get frustrated at any time, just come talk to me and I'll see what I can do to help solve the problem. Okay. And if I have any problems, I will attempt to come to you with not just the problem, but one or two solutions or options before we move forward. Fair enough? And they're always like, yeah, that's great. On closing day, super fun day. That's when all of us like eat the candy out of the candy bowl for lunch, the closing attorney's office, all the fun stuff. You get to get your carpal tunnel back from signing all of the documents. When you're the buyer, you get a bunch of things to sign, and it's a very, very exciting day. So you should be able to review most of the documents beforehand, but the closing attorney will go over with you anything that's in that stack of papers as you're going through it that day. And so it's it's a very paperwork heavy day, but it's also a very, very exciting day for you to become a homeowner and reach your goals. Now, all we have to decide now, and you can either use a loyalty agreement like this, or you can use your buyer brokerages in your area. I like to use my buyer brokerages because why have them sign something small if we're just going to have them sign something bigger later? And I go, all right, so now the only thing that we need to decide is, are you ready to hire me? And am I ready to get to work for you? So what do you think? Are you ready to get started? If they say no, then you find out what the objections are, what's holding them back. If they say yes, then you go, great, cool. Here's the contract that's hiring me and me agreeing to work for you. Just sign right here. I had already layered in commission early on. This should not be a difficult conversation, right? I think most people hand over that document and you guys are so nervous to hand it over because you didn't talk about it. You didn't bring it up. It is a surprise. All of a sudden we went from, we thought we were going to see houses to now you're giving me a 17-page document to sign. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am. Just like if I was going to list your house, we have these ridiculous documents that pretty much say, here's what I'm responsible for, here's what you're responsible for, and we're agreeing to work with each other. And this is the point, guys, where if somebody says to me, I'm not interested in signing something, I can say, okay, out of curiosity, what would hold you back from committing to somebody? And I just listen because you never know what their response is. And I go, oh, okay, well, I thought we were going to look at houses today. So we've got a couple different options. Either we can sign one of these that is for these properties that we agreed to go look at today, or I can cancel those appointments. How would you like to proceed? Totally up to you. I can be flexible. And just let them sit with it. That's the problem, is a lot of us ask these questions and we're afraid to ask like the really tough question and then just sit there in silence because y'all think if I could just win them over in the next couple of houses, they'll sign it. Why? You already gave them the milk. Why are they going to buy the cow? And my philosophy is, why go show them weekend after weekend after weekend if they're not willing to commit to you? Your weekend is your family time. If you don't want to hire me, that's okay. I'll find somebody who does. It's all right. But are you going into these meetings understanding that you have value, delivering on that value, closing for that value, and then standing firm on it? I'm not going to let them just go. I understand you just met me. We just rolled out this whole thing. I'm telling you everything. I would understand if you said, I only want to see the properties today and then make a decision. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Okay, my time is protected. And then that gives you an out that if I drive you crazy today and you go, this lady's batshit crazy, I don't want to work with her, that you've got an out. It was only for these properties. I'm good with that. But before we schedule the next set, I do want you to, would it be fair that after today, if you find more houses that you want to see and you want to continue talking through this, that we make it, to where this is open to other properties? Could we make that decision that maybe in a week or two, you could make a commitment one way or the other? Am I in or am I out? It tells me how much energy to invest. And I'm not afraid to tell people that, and neither should you. I'm sitting here thinking, If you signed a loyalty agreement with me, I'd be willing to go pay money to send letters and write letters to people and cold call to homes that are not on the market and find out if they're interested in selling so that it could help you find a better deal than what's out on the market because you're struggling to find it. But if you're not loyal to me and you're just hoping anybody will bring you the business, I'm just going to send you stuff when it hits the market because I don't have to spend a whole lot of time doing that. I want to spend my time finding stuff for people who have promised me that they really want to work with me. And I hope that makes sense. It's like you go to work and you're working and, you know, the boss doesn't want to pay you at the end of the week. Or, you know, somebody wants you to come and work, but they'll like let you know if it worked out this week, you know. Like, no way, I'm working. Either I'm working or I'm not. Give me a direction here. And you can have all the scripts in the world, but the first thing that you guys need to understand is that you are valuable and you have your time is valuable. And the fact that you have this license and these resources and everything is valuable if you're using them. And you need to have the guts to say, here's my boundaries in the most polite of ways. I'm willing to go show you houses as long as we sign something for at least these houses. I'll just list out these houses. This agreement is exclusive to these 5 houses we're going to see today. Otherwise, if you're not even really willing to do that, why? It doesn't even make any sense. So you just want me to show you for free? Okay, I'll charge you $1,000 an hour. You want to do it that way? We'll do that way. I'm for hire. What do you want to do? Right. And so you guys, I think the biggest fear from people in asking for these buyer brokerages from the get-go is you were afraid you were going to lose somebody by not signing. And that always seemed very perplexing to me because if they weren't willing to sign, you never really had them. So that always confused me. I'm like, well, what happens if you show them property 6 different weekends and then they write an offer on somebody else with somebody else? How is that helpful? Right? But versus doing a buyer consult, walking them through the process, taking them through it, educating them, establishing what your strengths are and what your values are, and then asking them to commit to you. I just have an easier time committing to people that also committed to me. So if you've been struggling with why would I sign a buyer consult? Why would I sign a buyer agreement before showing property? To me, it's like the equivalent of if you applied for a job and whether you show up before they made you an offer or not. I'm going to show up and I'm going to work here at, Chick-fil-A and just hope that they give me a paycheck at the end of the week. And they're like, Deanna, why are you here? Why are you behind the counter? Nobody told you to be here. You're like, I'm getting my paycheck on Friday. Well, no, we didn't agree to that. You put it in any other scenario and it sounds psychotic. But as realtors, we dropped the ball somewhere. I didn't, but many of us did. So I'm going to hit the end of the recording and open up for questions.